Surgery 101, the podcast series brought to you with the help of the Department of Surgery at the University of Alberta here in Edmonton. This week's episode is another presentation from our team's recent visit to the Canadian Conference on Medical Education, which was held in Quebec City in April. And this week's episode is from one of our summer students, Krista Lai, who'll be talking to us about social networking software and Facebook in specific reference to its use among medical students and attitudes of professionalism. So, let's get ready to talk about Facebook here on Surgery 101.
Thank you very much, Dr. White. So this is my presentation on the new attitudes of professionalism in the Web 2.0 generation. Simply put, social media and Facebook in particular is everywhere. It's a very powerful tool to share, communicate, and bring large groups of people together in ways that we have never seen before. In Canada alone, there are over 18 million Facebook users, with approximately 50% from the 18 to 34 age group, and undoubtedly, medical students are definitely part of this group. In light of the extreme importance of professionalism, privacy, and confidentiality in medicine, we wanted to investigate what medical students thought of Facebook and what they were doing, the good and the bad. So our three main objectives are: how important is professionalism on Facebook? What are medical students doing on Facebook? And what are medical students seeing on Facebook? As part of a larger study, we sent out a voluntary online survey through SurveyMonkey to students in professional healthcare programs, including medicine. There were questions regarding patterns of use on Facebook, content seen, and opinions about online professionalism. We had varying answer formats, including multiple choice, 5-point Likert scale, and text response. A descriptive analysis was then done on the data. A total of 254 medical students responded, a 37% response rate. 92% of the respondents had a Facebook account, and 96% of them used it for personal and social reasons, which include personal communication with family and friends, planning or learning about upcoming events, and surfing for entertainment. So first, we wanted to establish whether or not students understood and agreed with the idea of professionalism. As you can see here, close to 100% of students state that they understand professionalism and what it entails as a future professional. About 95% fully agree with the expectations of professionalism and make a conscious effort to abide by them in all areas of their life. Over 90% acknowledge that professionalism becomes important as soon as they enter medical school. So with these statements, the students are fully committing to the idea of professionalism and claim to be comfortable with the idea and the concept. So keeping this in mind, it is quite interesting to note that already they're taking a step back and modifying and qualifying their province in the previous slide, where 95% of them agreed with the expectations of professionalism and strived to adhere to them in all areas of their life. Quite naturally, none of the students refuted the importance of professionalism in the hospital or clinic, but as soon as they get further away from the patient and from their role as a medical student, the less applicable and important professionalism becomes. As a couple of respondents wrote, during free time, unless they are identifiable as healthcare students, they are free to act as they want, and professionals deserve a life outside their profession, so they should be able to do what they want in their free time. Now, if this trend continues, the online world is even more removed than the university or free time spent in the view of public, and more anonymous to a certain extent when people can hide behind their computer screens and the internet. So we wondered just how important professionalism is to the students, and how their viewpoints on it change when they are no longer explicitly tied to their role as students and to the profession. The vast majority attest that the importance of online professionalism is equal to that in traditional environments, which contrasts the 40% from the previous slide that felt professionalism is necessary in their free time spent in the view of the public. However, students seem to dissociate their online activity and identity from their professional one. Just under 50% feel that their online activity has no bearing on who they are as a professional, while over 50% feel that it isn't entirely possible to maintain professionalism while online. Essentially, they are saying that they get a break from professionalism while online. And the last point perhaps points to one of the reasons why there is such a sentiment. Over 60% believe that social media has removed protection for professionals from the public. There seems to be a feeling of lacking control over what happens online. Now, in light of the feeling of some that professionalism isn't as important in online activity, let's take a look at what types of things medical students do deem unprofessional. Among the top 5 things, 99% of students feel that it is inappropriate to disclose information about a patient, while 92% feel the same way about a photo of a patient. Shown here, over 2/3 of students also felt that the following are unprofessional, and generally, they relate to inappropriate behaviors such as obscene gestures or overt overconsumption of alcohol. Now, knowing where the line is drawn between professional and unprofessional content on Facebook, does any of this actually happen? Almost unsurprisingly, 50% of students have seen one or more of these things on Facebook posted by others. Most commonly cited instances were where too much patient information was given, drunk pictures and statuses about partying, and rude and negative comments about lecturers and preceptors. Of the 41% of students who say they have unprofessional things posted about them, alcohol, drinking, and partying is by far the most common thing cited. We received many free text comments, some quite passionate and long and detailed, about whether anything could and should be done about these breaches in online professionalism. Generally speaking, over 80% feel that others would benefit from guidelines, but not as many, 70% feel that they themselves would benefit. And although we don't show it here, there was very little support from students to discourage, and even less so to ban the use of social networking software due to its risks. It was less than 5% in both cases. So now that we have learned all of this, what can we conclude from this? To begin, students recognize the value of professionalism and believe that it is an appropriate expectation. In fact, they make a commitment to abide by its principles. However, one of the biggest points of conflict is the idea of private life versus public or professional life. To what extent do they influence each other? Students fiercely protect their free time and freedom of expression and feel somewhat that they don't have full control over what goes on online. Many of them have seen unprofessional behavior and content on Facebook, but far fewer claim to have done it themselves. As such, there's a sentiment that other people need guidelines, but not me. However, one of the free text comments we received questioned how realistic it is to expect students to remain professional in their free time, including when online, even if it is a reasonable expectation to do so. This really raises a great point because the task of monitoring and policing students' personal activities raises more challenges and questions about their right to privacy. How much can we reasonably regulate how students express themselves in their own time, especially given that the students have indicated that it is important to them to be able to have a place where they are free and separate from the pressures of the profession? Now, we acknowledge that this was a single institution study and there was a relatively low response rate, but we do feel that the group surveyed is demographically representative of the students in medical school classes in terms of age and gender. So moving forward, it would be beneficial to advise students to think critically about what they are putting on Facebook and online in general. As much as we want to separate our private lives from our role as a physician, that fine line is easily crossed in social media. In closing, perhaps these words of wisdom that are taken directly from the CMA's current policy on social media would serve as a good starting point in this issue. When communicating through social media, physicians must remember that they remain governed by the same ethical and professional standards that have always applied and that are paramount. I would like to thank all of the following people: Mr. Paul Kerwan, Dr. Shelley Ross, Dr. Jonathan White, and Ms. Shannon Erickson for all of their work and contribution in this project, as well as the University of Alberta Teaching Scholars Program and the University of Alberta Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and we would welcome any questions or comments, as we always love to hear what people have to say about this important issue.
Thanks very much, Krista. That was fascinating. As somebody who was a medical student in the 1980s and 1990s, before the internet and before personal computers, it's fascinating to see now how medical students are using things like Facebook and other forms of social networking software. So we're very happy to get any questions or comments about this episode. Please email us at surgerypodcast@gmail.com. You can also look us up at our main website, surgery101.org, which is a new design this week. Or you can find us on Twitter at surgery_101, or just join our Facebook group as well. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next week on Surgery 101.